And good afternoon. Welcome to the booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. Very excited. The whole purpose of this show is to be able to bring in individuals in the community who are going to be able to bring insight to things that are very important to the voting public as well as just citizens in general. And I'm very honored to be here with the city administrator for the city of Kennett, Mr. Steve Rasmussen. Welcome to the booth, Steve.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And first off, I think that what I would like for you to do, and I know that you're probably done this a million times, could you tell me a little bit about what a city administrator does and what the difference between a city administrator and a city manager is?
Yeah, what happens is the U.S. Constitution says that whatever isn't specifically delegated to the U.S. government is delegated to the states. And so local government is not talked about in the U.S. Constitution. So each state then can set up whatever they would like to do in local government, and they have different ways of doing it. And usually there's 4 or 5 different forms of government. You can have, for example, a strong mayor form of government like St. Louis has. You can have a commission form of government. I think we only have one city left in Missouri that's a commission form of government. You can have a council, city manager form of government, or you can have a city administrator form of government. So the public votes on what they want, and I believe that it was in 1978 that the city of Kennett voted to have a city administrator form of government. Now, the difference in the city manager form and the city administrator form is kind of this, basically. In a city manager form of government, usually, and I came from one of the cities, it's one of the few cities in the state that has a pure form of city government, city manager form of government. And there are 5 elected officials, and every year they elect them, and they elect one of their members to be the chairman of that board, and that member is called the mayor. And the mayor really only has 2 duties any different from the rest of the city council. One, the mayor chairs the city council meetings, and the second thing is the mayor signs official documents purely in a ministerial capacity. The vote can be 4-1 against the mayor, but the mayor still has to sign it. The difference there between that and a city administrator form of government, and the city administrator form of government is you have 10 elected officials, and then the mayor is elected at large. And the mayor has other responsibilities other than just being a member of the city council. In a city manager form of government, the city manager then answers to the entire council. And that really happens in the city administrator form as well. But in the city administrator form, what the ordinance says is that the city administrator is the chief administrator assistant to the mayor, and is as such is the administrative officer of city government, and manages the departments at the role of the city council and the mayor. And so there's not much difference, but the significant difference there.
So, in talking about your current role in the city of Kennett, there had come some situations in the past in which there was the mayor and a council trying to handle a multi-million-dollar budget, and there are some issues down the road. And we've tried the city administrator and the city manager in the past. Is that correct here in the city of Kennett, to the best of your knowledge?
I think only a city administrator. I don't think you had a city manager form of government.
Right. And then at some point, the city council passed a resolution or ordinance and asked that we have hire someone to be the city manager, correct?
Right.
And you have been hired to be the city manager. What is your long-term goal? And I know this may or may. Are you a permanent city manager? Are you an interim city manager? What are you? Are you trying to be a stopgap to help us figure out what we're doing? How would you characterize your role for the city of Kennett?
Yes, all of the above. So let me go into that in a little more detail. What happened was the city had not had a city administrator for a long time, and so I don't know the history of that. But then here recently, they decided that they did want to get a city administrator, and I think the reason for that was because what we had the city council divided up into 5 different committees, and each committee was handling a portion of the work that would normally be the administrative work. And normally, what happens is in a city administrative form of government, the city administrator is responsible for coordinating and supervising the operations of the departments of the city. Well, when you didn't have that, you had each one of these committees chaired by a council member trying to manage the departments and trying to coordinate their activities. It's a little bit easier if you've got one person who is coordinating those, and so the city administrator then is responsible for coordinating and supervising the operation of the departments. And one of the first things that the council did was it passed an ordinance saying that the city administrator would hire and fire employees. So that makes it pretty clear who is in charge of those departments.
So let's talk a little bit here. Welcome to the booth with Steve Rasmussen, the city administrator for the city of Kennett, on KDX AM 1590. Let's talk a little bit about those 5 committees that were set up. And a lot of people don't realize that these councilmen are part-time elected officials who have other employment or maybe retired, but they were trying to do managing these different 5 committees or departments in their free time or when they had off time. Is that correct?
Right. They had generally 3 city council members on the committee with one person as the chairman of the committee, and then that committee was trying to manage that department essentially with a liaison from the department, a city staff member, and then there really I don't think you had anybody coordinating the work of the departments except when the 5 committee members could meet in the city council. Then they would try to work it together. And I wasn't here, so I don't know how it worked, but I think they were doing pretty well at that until they just got tired of doing it, is what it amounted to. Now it comes back to I want to answer the other half of your question. So what they did was they hired a company called Interim Solutions, and Interim Solutions then is going to get a permanent city administrator. And in the meantime, Interim Solutions then provided them with an interim city administrator. So right now I'm the interim city administrator, and I have not been appointed or hired as the permanent city administrator. The difference between that is only whether it's permanent or not, because all the responsibilities remain the same.
Correct. And you indicated that there's going to eventually be a search, something of that nature, for a full-time city administrator. Is there a time frame that we're looking at, or?
Probably. What happens is Interim Solutions was hired to provide an interim city administrator for 4 months. So I got here on my first day was the 16th of June. So I've been here for about 6 weeks. Somewhere in the next couple of weeks or so, Interim Solutions will be getting back with the city and begin to do a search for a permanent city administrator. And I could put my name in for that as well if I wanted to. But what happens is they will start that search here in a few weeks. But that's a long-term issue that sometimes takes 4 or 5 or 6 months to get a city administrator hired, because first of all, the facilitator, it's a Interim Solutions, they will come and they will get with the city council and find out what the city council wants, and usually then put together a brochure and publish a brochure, and then that brochure is set out usually nationwide on these, but certainly regional, and then those will come back to Interim Solutions. Interim Solutions will narrow that down to what the city council would want, like maybe 10 or so, and then those 10 resumes will come to the city council, and then the city council will identify who they'd like to have personal interviews with. Well, now, this process I've just talked about now is a couple of months, And then by the time you arrange to get people to come, and then they come and they interview, then that's another month. And then when the council decides who they would like to get, then you have to go through the negotiation with that person. And oftentimes, by the time you've decided, city decides what person they want, that person may have gone to another city, and now you're back again. And so then that process goes on. And then once you've identified somebody and negotiated with them, sometimes they can come tomorrow, and sometimes they might not be able to come for a month. So that process that I've just talked about is usually about a 6-month process, 4 to 6 months.
And in talking about you as the interim city administrator, being sent here and filling this role, I think the citizens of Kennett, I know that you're very well qualified. Why don't you just explain to the listeners a little bit about what your qualifications are and what you've done in the past? Obviously, you've retired. Is that correct? And you're doing this post.
Yeah, I've retired twice and flunked both times.
Well, explain to the listeners. Again, we're welcome to the booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. I'm with Steve Rasmussen, and he's the one who indicated the interim city administrator for the city of Kennett. We're talking a little bit about him. You kind of explain to the people where have you been in some of the areas that you've done this city administrator in the past.
I'm going to start actually a little bit before that, because before we start with city administrator, we start with something else, and that was I graduated from the Air Force Academy and took my commission in the Army. You can cross commission. You can take your commission, whichever one you wanted to do. I wanted to be an infantry platoon leader, so I was in the Army, spent 3 tours in Vietnam, and ultimately was promoted to full colonel and was the base commander at Fort Campbell, where the 101st Airborne Division was. I'd served a tour of duty in the Vietnam with the 101st Airborne Division and 2 other tours of duty with the 101st. So I'm very fortunate to go back and be the base commander there.
Yes, sir.
So that kind of then put me in the position of being a city manager. And so after and that was nearly 30 years, then I retired from the Army, and since then I've been in 5 different cities, 3 in Missouri, 1 in Iowa, and 1 in Illinois. As a city administrator and a city manager and an assistant and an acting city manager. So I've kind of been in each one of those different positions.
Right.
So I can see how all of them work, and they're all kind of different. They're all kind of the same.
Well, I guess if we're going out on a limb, it sounds like you're very experienced, and we appreciate your service. Obviously, I didn't know that. Explain to us a little bit, what is your preference in regard to a city manager versus a city administrator?
I don't think I have a preference one way or the other. It really is what the city has chosen to do and how you make it work. One of the things about the city manager form of government, in the pure city manager form, you've got 5 elected officials, and I meet with the elected officials. I try to meet with them once between every council meeting, one-on-one. Not because I'm trying to tell them how to vote or something. What I want to do is I want to let them know what's coming up, so they don't come into the city council meeting and all of a sudden have something on their table that they haven't heard from before, don't know anything about it. So that takes some time, but when I had 5 of them, it was a little easier. Now I've got 10, so it takes twice as much time to do that. And sometimes I'm able to double up and meet for lunch or something like that, but it's a little more difficult dealing with 10. Now, the other advantage, though, the advantage to dealing with 10 is you have a little more of a flexibility or a little more discussion, because with 10, you got to get a majority of votes. You got to get 6 votes to vote for something one way or the other. But what happens, you get a variety of opinions. When you've got 5, sometimes you get that 2-2 split, and one person that kind of hold out for what they want. So it kind of gets a little tough with 5. 10 gives you a little more variety of opinions. So there's advantages and disadvantages to each one, and it's whatever the voters of the city have chosen to do.
Right. And then, we were talking earlier, we were talking about the 5 different committees that were set up prior that were being handled by a chairman, which was a city council member. Is it my understanding that we had a finance committee, we had a police committee, a fire committee? Was there also maybe
Well,
even
I'm glad you asked that question. I
yeah,
just happen to have it here. We have a fire committee, police committee, a humane committee, that's animal control,
sure.
finance committee, and street. Now, street is street and stormwater. So you had those 5 different committees.
And a lot of people also, and I know this is a kind of a jumping around a little bit. In Kennett we have what's now known as the Board of Public Works,
Yes.
and the Board of Public Works is a totally separate entity from the city of Kennett, correct? As far as the city council.
Well, kind of. The board members of the Board of Public Works are appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. So it's not a completely separate entity. Like the school board is a completely separate entity. Their board members are elected in their own right, and so they have it. The Board of Public Works is part of the city, but it functions pretty independently. The mayor and I attend the board members. I'm an ex officio member of their board, and I attend that, and we watch what's going on and see that. But they operate pretty independently, and I have to tell you that. That's pretty nice. The utilities is a big problem in a lot of cities, and not having to do that in this particular city because we've got that board and their independent director works pretty good.
And in talking about the Board of Public Works, is it my understanding there's 5 members on the board that vote? Is that correct? Or
I never actually looked at the number and counted. I can remember sitting around the table and looks like there's 5 of them, I guess.
And I'm not trying to by any means stuff, but I think it's very important for the citizens and the individuals who listen to, Welcome to the Booth with Steve Rasmussen, the interim city manager or city administrator here in the city of Kennett on AM 1590, that a lot of people, if the name Kennett is attached to something, they think it's all one unit that's handled by the city council. So that's why I was kind of explaining that the mayor appoints the members of the board of directors of the Board of Public Works, who then hires the actual director or the administrator of the Board of Public Works. And it's a separate entity, but it's the same, like you said. But they have their own board that votes on things such as
right, and their actions don't come back to the city council, so they're pretty independent, virtually independent. But I would say it's part of the city. It's not like a separate company or anything.
Right.
And it is more part of the city than the school board is, but much more independent than, say, the police department is. The police department absolutely works for the city.
Sure.
Now there's a couple of other ones that are the same way. We have the Parks Department,
Right.
And they have their board, and they operate very independently. Although their budget comes under the city's budget, so when the city does the budget, you'll have the Parks Department, and we also have the airport. The airport's the same way, but the airport is part of the city's budget. Unlike the Board of Public Works, which budget is not part of the city budget. It's a separate budget.
Because their money is raised through the revenue that they raise through charging customers for services such as water, sewer, electricity, gas, and eventually trash. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're getting ready to do trash. Yep, and they have had a meeting this last week and decided on how that was going to work. And I won't make that announcement. I'll let them make that announcement. But one of the things that you said, which is a little bit different, is each one of those different boards or commissions has a different amount of independent operations. Like in the Parks Department, I just don't have to do very much with the Parks Department because they've got a board and they've got 2 employees, but their budget is part of the city budget, and we're happy to have them do that.
And one of the things I want the people to know, since you've come here, you've made it a conscious effort that you go to the Board of Public Works meetings, you go to the Park Department meetings, and you are not really watching, but you're making sure that everything's going the way it needs to go in regards to everything that's happening, correct?
Well, yes. And what happens is I'm going there because I would like to help them in anything that they may have. but also then I can make sure that the city council is informed about what they're doing. And I would note here that in the city administrator form of government, it says that the city administrator is also an ad hoc member of all of those boards that are appointed by the city council.
And again, this is Daren Todd on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. I'm here with Interim City Administrator Steve Rasmussen from the City of Kennett. We've been talking a little bit about the different types of city council or city form of government that can happen, some of the different things that he's been involved in. One thing that I know that everyone wants to know is probably, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 years ago, the city of Kennett got rid of the property tax for the city property tax and went to, I believe, a straight sales tax revenue source for the city. Is that correct?
Well, I don't think it was that long ago. I think it was, and I don't know since I wasn't here, but I don't think it was that long ago. But yes, they did do that. And that's where we were talking about the Board of Public Works. And that's a key difference. What happens is the Board of Public Works and the utilities, they can set the rate because they operate like the electric company or like Ameren UE. And that is, they're allowed by state law to set the rates for their services. And people don't get to vote on that because, electricity costs a certain amount of money, and you have to pay for the electricity, and then you have to pay for your services and your lines and your worker. So they can set their rates. But they're very careful about that because they don't want to set huge rates, and they've been very good about making sure that our rates are set low. The difference there is that the city can't do that. Sales tax, which is what provides a tax for the city, that's voted on by the public. So what happens is if you want to have a police tax, a police equipment tax, okay, well, you want to have an 8-cent sales tax, the public's got to vote on that, and they can vote that down. So the city budget is done by the vote of the people, and that's how much money you get. The Public Works is done by setting the rates for the services that they provide, and that's a very important difference.
Right. And that rate would be set by a vote of the members of the Board of Public Works, correct?
Right.
And I think it's very important that individuals, if they are interested in becoming members of the Board of Public Works, or if they want to be on the Park Department Board or things of that nature, that's all appointed by the city mayor with appointment of the city council with confirmation by the city council. Is that correct?
Right. And I haven't been here while they've done one of those, but when the vacancies come up or when the terms come up, that usually is how it works. The city clerk will send out application forms to anybody who would like to be a member of the board, and we advertise it. And then those people are frequently interviewed by the city council, and then the mayor will make an appointment that'll approved by the city council. Now that's the way it normally works, and we haven't done it here yet, so I don't have an experience of having done it here, but I've done it dozens of times before.
And let's just take a past experience. And you say it's advertised. Explain to the citizens where would you be able to see that information to know that there's a vacancy and there's an application process in the works?
Well, in every way that we can do it. One is it will go out on the city website that these boards or commissions have vacancies that will come available at a certain time. We'll also advertise it in the paper. I would talk to you on the radio about it. We'd let them know any way we could. We'd announce it at city council meetings, so the newspaper would be there, and you'd know who you had. We recently have a board that is being established, and that is for doing our a comprehensive plan. We got a grant of about, I think, $57,000 to do a long-term comprehensive plan, and we will have a board for that, and I think it's going to be about 15 people. And we advertised for that, and we're now looking at the people to be on that board. And so we got a lot of interest and a lot of volunteers to come for that, and we're excited about moving forward with that.
And in talking a little bit about the comprehensive plan, that leads me to another issue. Kennett has a chamber of commerce, um, and which I believe the current director is Christian Johnson. Is that
Right.
correct? And just for the listeners' information, the board of, or excuse me, the city council and the mayor has no control over the Kennett Chamber of Commerce. Correct?
That's right. That is a separate organization, and unlike something like the park board, the city council doesn't appoint those members. Those members of that board are elected by their own membership.
And I know that Mr. Johnson is very good about coming to each and every council meeting, giving an update about what's going on. Does the chamber receive any funds from the city of Kennett for its operating budget?
Yes, they do, and I don't have that in front of me, but I believe that just in the last couple of weeks there was a small amount, $25,000, that was voted to the Chamber of Commerce from city taxes.
And everything that the chamber does is to try to bring in business interest in industry tax dollars into the city by spending what it needs to, and it reports to the city council when it asks for money. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, if they would ask for money for the city council, they would come back and give a report to and
And
the you know, I don't want to speak for the Chamber of Commerce because they have their own board and they have their own activities, and they do what move forward with what their membership would like them to move forward. But yes, you know, it's what you're talking about. It is it's bringing business and commerce to the city.
and again, we're here with welcome to the booth with retired Colonel Steve Rasmussen from the United States Army, who's the interim city administrator for the city of Kennett. Has been doing this for a long time. He's gracious enough to come and give us a few minutes talking about his experience, approximately 6 weeks as city administrator here in the city of Kennett. One thing that I've always known, we've talked a couple times in the past before you were here today, and I've always felt that you were very upfront and straightforward with what was going on.
Well, I hope so. Try to be that way, yeah.
And some people in the past have said that the city of Kennett is not very transparent. And what I mean by that is sometimes they feel that the city council or the mayor would do some things and no one knew what was going on. You know, there's been some allegations about sunshine violations and things of that nature. And we had a very frank discussion about sunshine laws. And you told me that you are very liberal in the sunshine because you feel that everything should be transparent and everything should be in light, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I did when I was in the Army there, I was an airborne ranger infantryman, but I had also been sent to graduate school and got a master's degree in English to teach at the military academy. And when you're in the service, you have a specialty, and I was an airborne ranger infantryman. But they also say, well, when you're not out there doing that, we're going to send you to the Pentagon and do something else. So I was a public information officer. So I went to the public information officer school at Fort Benjamin Harrison, and it was an honor graduate, by the way. So I always think that I am the public information officer for the city. Now, some cities will have a public information officer if you're a larger city, but in our size city, normally you don't. But that duty falls to the city administrator.
Well, and let me ask you this question. If there's any kind of information or anything that a citizen wants to know, they can certainly request that information from you or any city council meeting, and they'll certainly be willing to give that. There's nothing that's being held back behind the scene that we don't know about. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's nothing that's being held back about it. Anybody wants to call me, I'm happy to do it. I'll give you my cell phone number, 573-338-5800. Anybody can call me anytime, and I'll tell them whatever you want to know. Now, what happens is you have a number of different ways of getting information. There's the radio, there's the newspaper. We publish the agenda. We put the minutes of the meeting out on the website, so you can get any of that you want. The problem is sometimes you have to ask for it. You have to look for it. We may not know who has some question. If you don't know the answer to that question. Maybe it's because you didn't ask, but I'll be glad to take as much time and tell anybody anything they need to know.
And,
The only difference is there are three things that are done that are precluded by the Sunshine Law that are allowed to be done in a closed session with the City Council. Other than that, everything is open, and we make sure that we have public invited to all the meetings, and we post all of the agendas.
and just so we know, what are the three things that is always in closed session?
Yeah. Employee discipline is in closed session. Purchasing of land is in closed session, and attorney-client privilege. If the attorney has legal advice to give to the city, that can be done in closed session.
And eventually, after a certain amount of time, do those three things have to be divulged?
They are, and I don't know exactly what those times are. I'd have to let you know. But yes, there are some requirements after a while that they are, and I'd have to go and look that up for you.
And again, we're welcome to the booth with Daren Todd with Interim City Administrator Steve Rasmussen from the City of Kennett, retired colonel from the United States Army. Tell me a little bit about your experience in the Army. You indicated that you were the base commander of Fort Campbell over in Kentucky. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was, and that's interesting because we have different assignments in different places, and I'll tell you one of my most fun assignments. I was the chief of operations as an Army colonel for the U.S. Army in Latin America, and we were assigned, we were in Panama, and my family and I lived there. We're sailboaters, and we have a sailboat, and I had a license to sail through the Panama Canal, so we'd sail in the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean on the same day.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's fun.
And how long were you in the military? Did you say 30 years?
Yeah, just about 30, I think 29 in a few months.
And you indicated that you went to the Air Force Academy?
Right.
And then you crossed over into the Army. Explain that process.
Well, what happens is the Department of Defense pays for a certain number of cadets to go to the service academies. And but as long as they get as many lieutenants out of the service academies they pay for, they're happy. So you can take your commission in whichever service you want. A lot of West Point graduates would take their commission in the Air Force because they wanted to fly airplanes.
Right.
And I had a couple of classmates from the Air Force Academy who took their commission in the Marines. They wanted to be Marines, so they went out to be Marines.
And explain to the people, and I know that while you're very modest, explain how you get an actual invite to be a member of the Naval Academy.
Oh, or one of the other academies?
Yes.
Yeah, what happens is you have to be appointed by your congressman or your representative, and each senator and each representative has a certain number of cadets that they can have at the academies at any time. So when you have a graduation and you graduate several of the cadets that person is appointed, he can then appoint several other ones. I was appointed by Senator Gail McGee, the senator of Wyoming, and was appointed to the Air Force Academy.
And again, I think it's very important to realize that each senator has a certain number. It's not like he can appoint somebody every year while there's going through. There's only a certain number allotted, and you have to qualify.
Yeah. He can only have a certain number that are currently at the academy. So once somebody graduates or resigns, then he has another vacancy that he can appoint. And it used to be, and now this is 100 years ago or so, that it was often done by favoritism. You'd be the nephews or friends or uncles. But now it's all done by a competitive examination. So when the senator, Josh Hawley, he'll have some, and he'll have some appointments he'll have to make. So he'll have his staff will go out and they will advertise it, and the people will take examinations, and then they will give to him who they think would be the best qualified from those interviews and examinations, and he ultimately will make the decision on that. But I just would have to say that it's 100% based on qualifications now.
And you indicated that you were appointed by the senator from Wyoming. Is that where you're from originally?
Originally up from Cheyenne, Wyoming.
And how long did you stay in the Cheyenne, Wyoming area before you moved on?
Oh, well, I graduated from Cheyenne Central High School, and then at I think I was 19, and I got on an airplane in Cheyenne, Wyoming Airport, and flew down to Colorado Springs, and got off there at the Air Force Academy, and that was the last I saw of Cheyenne. No, I went back there and visited my
Right.
family. My parents were there. And by the way, in this 2 weeks from now, we're having our class reunion at the Air Force Academy.
What year did you graduate?
It is going to be surprising. This is my 55th class reunion.
Congratulations. And how
Graduated in 1970.
1970. And how many classmates do you think will be there?
Oh, I got the list by email here a couple of days ago, and it was a large number. We had it looked like it was 300 or something like that. It was a large number.
What would you say your graduating class was in 1970 at the Air Force Academy?
888.
Is there the same number that goes in each year that they start with, or are you aware of that information?
Yeah, they can start out with the same number, but sometimes it's a little different because it depends on who gets appointed and who gets there.
Right.
So, but it's about the same. I said 888, and that's not right. Maybe 750. I should remember that. But anyway, about that number.
Well, it's still very
Is that-
it's a very impressive number.
It's hard to remember, that I'm trying to remember numbers from 55 years ago.
That's right. And again, it's welcome to the booth on KDX AM 1590 here with Daren Todd. We're talking with the interim city administrator, Steve Rasmussen, retired colonel from the United States Army, longtime city administrator. And you indicated that you had 4, 5, 6 other places that you've been either an assistant or a city manager or city administrator. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll list them for you. In fact, just for the fun of it. So when I retired from the Army, and I'd been the base commander at Fort Campbell, so I was selected to be the assistant city administrator in Maryland Heights, Missouri.
Right.
And that was by a longtime famous city administrator, Mark Levin, who chose me for that. And then after that, I went to be the city administrator in Ottumwa, Iowa. And then I came back and was the city administrator in Jefferson City. And then I went to Bloomington, Illinois, and I was the assistant city manager there. And then I went to Cameron, Missouri, north of Kansas City, and was the city manager there for 7 years, and retired from there last spring, and began working with Interim Solutions. And the president of Interim Solutions, Jeff Hancock, and I came down here. I think maybe in May, and met with the city council, and they hired them to be the company to provide an interim city administrator, and I was there with him, and they pointed to me. So I said, okay, I'll do that.
And here you are. And we're lucky to have you. Again, we're welcome to the booth with Daren Todd, KDX AM 1590 with the interim city administrator, Steve Rasmussen. We've talked a little bit about the new revenue stream that was in place with the sales tax, and not trying to account for every nickel or dime. What would you say is the current status, or what would you say is the current situation in regards to finances for the city of Kennett?
Oh, the city of Kennett is in very good financial situation. Now, I am told that 3 years ago or so, they were having a lot of difficulty, but they've been very fiscally responsible right now, and they are in very good shape. And just to show you how that works, the General Finance and Accounting Office, which watches city finances and advises on it, they say that your general fund revenue, your general fund reserve, should be at least 25% higher than your payroll, than the pay that you have to pay out, because taxes come in, and so you get money in, and then you have to make a bunch of payment and payment go out. Well, you don't want to get so low that some cities have had to do. They have to take a short-term loan from a bank to make payroll. So what happens is, to be safe, you have to have about 20% more in your general fund revenue than you have to pay out on a monthly basis, and that takes for account when times are a little bit low. Some cities say that they'd like to have 25% or 30%, and we actually have 50%. So we've got twice what we need to have. So we're in good shape, and if we have any emergencies, we can take care of that. And on the next city council meeting, we're going to transfer some money from some of our accounts back into some departments to make some expenditures, and we have the money to do that, and that's good.
And in looking at the expenditures, obviously everyone is concerned first of all about public safety. They want a well-maintained, well-paid, well-staffed police department. They're also very concerned about a well-maintained, well-staffed fire department, and they also want good roads. I think that's clearly evident. They want to have good infrastructure. Are you happy where we are in regards to those three areas as far as our staff and our payroll and things of that nature?
Well, yes, but I'm going to follow that with a but. If you're applying for a job as a city manager or city administrator, and I've been in 5, I must have applied for 100. I don't know how many out there, but every city says that their most important thing that they want to look on is economic development. Now, they say that because public safety, fire, and police is always a given. They don't have to give that as their top priority. That's their top priority. But always they will say that economic development is their top priority. It's amazing. I don't, if I looked at 100 of them now, that's probably what they'd all say. And that is to bring more business in the city and develop the city and bring more payroll to the city, increase the taxes, and all of that then helps to do such things as roads. Now, where do roads come in? Well, one of the things that we will be doing, and I think we'll be doing it here in the next several weeks, is we'll be having a strategic planning session, and we'll get the city council all together, and we'll say, okay, what are your priorities now? And we don't have, we're healthy in money, but we don't have enough money or people or time to do everything that everybody wants. So what are your priorities? And we'll ask the city council to talk about that. We'll ask the department heads to talk about that. And as a result of that, we'll come out with a list. And that list isn't 50 things. It's 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. I've done this, in every city that I've been in. And usually you get kind of 7 or so, and then we'll come back with a priority list, and we'll put it in as a resolution for the city to vote on. Now, which of those will be high? Roads may be, but I was in one city where they had lakes with parks around the lake, and their number one priority was to get walking trails around the lakes. Okay, well, if that's what you do, when we put together the budget, we'll put a little lower on roads and streets and a little higher on walking trails. But if they say their number one thing is to improve the streets, well, put a little more time and money and effort. We may hire another person in the street department and put some more money into that. So we'll put the budget together. One of the things you have is the power and duties of the city administrator is to present a balanced budget to the city council. So when we get ready to do that and we start putting that budget together, we'll create a balanced budget as we're required to by state law, but it will reflect the priorities of the city council. So when you say roads, maybe, we'll see.
And whenever you talk about putting together the balanced budget, when will the budget process be put before the council that you're talking about?
Yeah, every city, for some reason, I'm not quite sure why, have different times. The fiscal year begins here on June, the 1st of June. So it'll be put together by the city council, voted on, and it'll be kind of April, May will be big time, and so the city staff really begins working on this right after the council has its strategic planning session. So we have a strategic planning session in September. So October, November, December, the city staff will put the budget together, and we'll give it to the council probably right after the first of the year, so they begin to look at that, and they'll vote on it for probably in May or April or May.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd. We're here with Interim City Administrator Steve Rasmussen for the City of Kennett. We've talked about a few topics, and so the strategic planning that you're talking about, if I as a citizen am concerned about something in particular, I need to reach out to my city council person and let them know that that's what I think is important, correct?
Absolutely. And there are several ways you can do it. One, call me, and I'll let the city council know that they're doing it. Or call your city councilman. You're elected by wards, and so in your ward you can call and talk to your city council member. Or what you can do is you can come to the city council. If you call the city clerk ahead of time, they will put you on the agenda, and you'll be put on the agenda to talk about what you have. And come in, and you can tell the city council there what your priorities are, and you can then be not only in front of the city council, but you'll be on the TV, and you'll be on the radio, and you'll be on the newspaper, and you get all your information out there.
And just so everyone knows, the city council in Kennett meets.
It meets the first and third Tuesday at 6:30.
And that's at the
City Hall.
And that address is it 200 Cedar?
Yes, it's at the corner of Cedar and Second.
Yes, sir.
Where the police department is.
Right.
The police department and the City Hall are together right now, and they're pretty crowded. And one of the goals that the city council is trying to do is to spread that out somewhat and perhaps get a new city council building.
And I know that there's been one hot button issue, and I know it's been talked about quite a bit, and that's the landlord tenant and some of the vacant houses and things of that nature. I think there was a meeting last night, and some things were discussed by the city council and actually approved. Is that correct?
Actually, it wasn't approved last night. We had something there for approval, a resolution, but the city council wanted to make some changes on it, so they talked about it, and so we have, in fact, today we're rewriting that, and we'll bring it back to city council at the next meeting. The way state statute says is that the city council is the ultimate governing authority of the municipality, but it exercises its authority by meeting in council and by passing resolutions and ordinances. So what happens is you put this together and you write it out and you put it in front of them, and it got to get 6 votes. That's the way that works. And they didn't get 6 votes last night.
I understand. So in 2 weeks from
last night, the 19th.
August 19th will be the next meeting.
Yep, and we'll bring that back. We'll have several different things, but one of those will be the way in which the code enforcement officers enforce the ordinance. What happens is you have the ordinance on rental inspections, which the council passed, I think, last June, a year ago or so, and it's Ordinance 9033, I believe. I may even have a copy of it with me here. But what happens is then how you actually enforce it leaves some latitude. It's a little bit difficult. How do you do that exactly? How is this? What does this exactly mean? And so what the inspector said, and Lance, our fire chief, who is also has his code enforcement, he said, we'd like to have it exactly in writing what you want to do. Please put it in writing. We'll do it exactly as they want, but it is complicated and it's difficult. We want to have it exactly in writing. And so the council talked about that last night, and we updated it again, and we'll put it in front of them on the 19th.
And so if anyone's interested to go to the call their councilman or contact you or come on August 19th at 6 o'clock at the council meeting, and they'll be able to, if they get on the agenda the Friday prior, correct?
Yes, they can speak at
they can speak at the council. And one quick thing, was there something mentioned also about abandoned vehicles or something of that nature?
Yes, that was an issue, and what happens, it was asked to be put on the council agenda and for discussion, and one council member had wanted to talk about it because the way the ordinance reads right now, you cannot have an unlicensed vehicle in your yard. So if you have an unlicensed vehicle sitting out in your front yard on the grass or somewhere, you'll get ticketed. But and no exception to that. You cannot have any. But you can have as many licensed vehicles as you want.
Right.
Now, that's just the way it's a little bit strange that way. So we had one council member who wanted to make sure we enforce that and ticket those people and get those vehicles off of the front yard. We had another council member who said, but we've got the demolition derby coming up and people getting cars ready to do that, and that's a big deal. We want to let them to have it out there. So the staff wanted to know, do we want to start ticketing them, or do we want to change the ordinance to allow some out there? So they had a discussion on that, and we just put it on for discussion. There wasn't an ordinance or anything, but they made some recommendations. So at the next council meeting, we'll come back with an amendment to that ordinance. And I think what it's going to say is it may say that there maybe is one or two or three that you're allowed to have if they're hobby vehicles, and is visible from the public right-of-way. If they're in the backyard or behind a fence and they're not visible to public right-of-way, then it wouldn't be affected. But we'll clarify that and put it in front of the city council, and the city council then can decide.
And that, again, if you're interested in that, you can contact your city councilman. You can come to the meeting on August 19th. You can get on the agenda on the prior Friday, or they can call you and talk to you about it.
Sure. All of that is public information, and I was going to say about things like this, what happens is the city council will decide. The city staff proposes and the city council disposes.
I like that saying. Again, Daren Todd, and welcome to the booth on KDX AM 1590 here with Interim City Administrator Steve Rasmussen. I've talked about a myriad of things. We're getting close to the end of our time. He didn't think we could talk for 55 minutes, but I knew once we got him started, he has plenty to talk about. One thing that I'm kind of interested in is, there's been a big push about beautification of the city, improving, having people take, one thing I'm interested on, if you go down St. Francis or if you go down Independence or First Street, there's a lot of people who own buildings in town who are not taking care of their buildings. They're dilapidated. They need to be painted. There's windows that's broken out, things of that nature. What can the city do to encourage business owners to take care of their properties, since we no longer have the property tax that could kind of be used as a carrot? What's your recommendation?
Well, there's two things that happen. One is it's kind of the approaching it negatively, and the other is positively. When I say it's negatively, what happens is we do have our property maintenance code, and there are things on the buildings that would be violations, and they could be ticketed for that and sent to court for that, and have to make those improvements. And sometimes the buildings can be declared uninhabitable, and they can be taken to court, and court sometimes will order them to be demolished. That's kind of a negative approach, but we do have that we do have the property code, and so we can do that. One of the things is we only have 3 people that are working in code administration, and when you're talking about vehicles on the yards, and you're talking about the rental property, and you're talking about building downtown, 3 people can only do as much as they want. So that's one of the reasons we have the strategic planning session. It may be that the city council is going to say, we want you to work on those downtown buildings. Okay, now we'll move some of the time and people and money off of some of the other things to do, and they'll work on that. The other thing that I say that is positive is the other way you can do it is you can do something, I've seen it like a facade improvement grant, and that is a building that is downtown that is having problems. They can apply for a grant that the city could make an ordinance to do, could give them money like to do it, maybe match the 50-50 or 75% for them to fix the front of their building. And that's a positive way of doing it.
Well, again, this is Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. I've been here with Interim City Administrator Steve Rasmussen, also retired Colonel of the United States Army, former commander of Fort Campbell. infantryman. Thank you for your service. You indicated you do 3 tours in Vietnam, and I'm very grateful for your service to our country.
Thank you very much. And when you say that, I also say thank you for all the appreciation that you've given, because the public is taking care of our soldiers and our wounded soldiers and our veterans very well, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I appreciate your time, and I'd like to thank all the listeners for making us part of your day. And for my executive producer, Maureen Johnson, or excuse me, my producer, Maureen Johnson, my executive producer, Evan Todd. Catch us next time on Welcome to the Booth on KDX AM 1590.